And he said he wanted to be in the garden. And that was the way we actually kept him in school, was to give him the opportunity to come to the garden every day in exchange for him going to his classes that he needed to go to. And so that's the kind of difference that it makes when we're talking about kids and students, and what an impact a garden can have in their life.
Well, I always tell people to get back to your child and use your imagination, but it's in that moment of contact with that life that's there. And if they get excited about that, I have no doubt that that young person is still growing
Oh yeah.
now and loves what they do because it touched something deep inside of them. And Scott, you've been touched by the gardening, I guess, bug, if people want to put it that way. But it's a way of life when you really
Yeah.
start to get in community with your plants.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually on Joe Lample's podcast a few days ago. It hasn't come out yet, and we were talking about that concept. And he had his PBS show, Growing a Greener World, and has written some books and is a fairly well known gardener,
Mm-hmm.
and has the ability to just hook everything up to a timer and let the program take care of the garden. And part of our discussion was that no, we can't do that. Because we are experienced gardeners now, and because we've been doing it for so long, it really is necessary that we hand water. We have to get out in our garden. We have to get out and see our plants every day and treat our plants with the care that each of them needs individually.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, it, it was, kindred spirits. I just really love the conversation because you're exactly right. It's a way of life, and it is getting out, getting close to your plants, being, I don't necessarily name my plants with people names, but yeah, seeing the characteristics and the personality of each plant. And if you pay attention, plants will actually talk to you,
Yep.
you know, by the way that their leaves are growing, or the colors that they've changed, or if they're drooping, or if they're having problems with pests. The plant is telling you something about where it is and how it's growing. And if you pay attention, you can have a big, beautiful garden because you're taking care of your plants. Just like if your kid comes up to you and tells you that they skinned their knee, you're going to put a bandage on it. The same thing happens in the garden. The plant is going to tell you that it's injured, and you've
Mm-hmm.
just got to figure out what kind of fix you got to do to make that plant feel better.
Well, and science is now showing plants actually have more senses than we do as humans. So when you're communicating with your plant, you're out there, you are the most important part of your garden is the farmer's shadow.
Yeah.
Because like Scott said, you can walk out there and okay, everything's all set up and everything should be great, but you had a pest come in and is attacking your plant. Well, if you're not out there to see that, you can't help that plant. And all of a sudden your whole garden has these pests.
Yeah, exactly. And I uh, was in a different discussion on a different show recently as well. I don't have pests really to speak of.
Mm-hmm.
When people ask about aphids, or whatever the pest of the day happens to be, I I really don't have that problem, and it's not that I'm bragging about it. It's just that when you have a garden, what I call in equilibrium, where you're working with nature and you're caring for your plants because you're present in the
Mm-hmm.
garden, a lot of those problems just don't arise. They just aren't there because all of nature's corrective actions are also happening at the same time. And so I'm looking, because this is the time of year. I have a plant that's just outside my garden gate, And it is usually the first plant of the year that gets aphids. Now it's
Mhm.
outside from my regular gardening area. It's a currant bush that is native to my area, and it's right next to my driveway. It's growing in a rock mulch area. I never water it. It gets very little sun. It's a plant that I didn't put it there. It came with the house, but it's growing
Mhm.
in the wrong location. And that plant struggles, which means it's the first plant that's going to be attacked by the insect pests. And the aphids show up about this time of year, most years. And what follows the aphids? The ladybugs. And
Yep.
so the ladybugs show up a few days later, eat all those aphids. They've had their fill. And where are they going to go? Where they're going to see my beautiful garden that's just over the fence. And then I have a resident population of ladybugs for the rest of the year. So, it's little things like that where you observe what's happening and then use it to your benefit. And so I I would like to move that plant so it didn't have such a terrible existence, but it plays a very important role in my overall garden to keep the rest of the plants healthy and happy.
Well, and you were mentioning that the plants outside of your normal cultivated area, you're just naturally letting them grow and they become what is called a banker plant. They're the
Yeah,
ones that the bugs go to first, but they also bring in the predator that eats that bug.
exactly.
And it's a beautiful thing when you look at it in that way. It's a progression of everything. And that's where we talked about microclimates, producing a microclimate that has unhealthy plants is where all the bugs are going to go
Yep.
and consume those plants and stay away from your garden. So these are actually techniques that are used in gardening that you got lucky on that having that plant,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know it it's I don't know. I don't want to talk about horseshoes or anything like that, Scott, but come on.
Well, but the method, it is a method that I've been familiar with for years, which is why
Mhm.
I could spot it and which is why I use it to my benefit. You can
Yeah.
use that same basic practice with other plants, intentional plants. So at the school garden, we had an infestation one year of harlequin bugs, and it was
Mhm.
in the second year. So the soil wasn't fully developed, the plants weren't as strong as they would become because by the fourth year of the school garden, we didn't have any insect pests. But in that second year, we had harlequin bugs. And I noticed that they were particularly attracted to the turnips. And so I had one bed I was growing some turnips in, and
Mhm.
it was being devastated by these harlequin bugs. So the next year, what did I plant in a few different areas of my garden? Turnips
Yep.
with the intent of attracting the harlequin bugs, and they accomplished that job. They became my trap plant, my bait trap, my sacrificial plant.
Mhm.
And after a couple years, I put the turnips in and they were no longer being eaten because that equilibrium had developed with the predators that had moved in, because I had the weak plants to attract those particular pests. And then nature said, "Oh, thanks for the hearty dinner of harlequin bugs." And then everything works out pretty easy. I'm a lazy gardener. I don't want to have to work too hard. And
Yep.
so it may take a couple years to get to that point, but it's well worth it.
And that's the thing, it's the progression